Charles Bukowski said that the problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubts, while the stupid ones are full of confidence. There's actually some scientific evidence for that. But that said, I want to say this, that honest Christians will tell you that at some point in their walk of faith that they have felt discouraged by God or doubtful of God. Sometimes our discouragement in life leads to spiritual doubt of God. We had an expectation for God and He did not meet that expectation, and then we start to doubt Him. But here's the thing, discouragement and doubt are like tranquilizers. We think we can hide their existence in our bloodstream, but they actually do show up in our actions. Let me give you an example from the physical world. If you are doubtful as to whether you can drive a motor vehicle, you will be nervous, and it will show in how you drive. It will not be a smooth drive, especially if you get to a big intersection and you must cross in front of the oncoming traffic. You will be a nervous driver, and the other drivers on the road will see it. You will be that person who does not cross over even though there is enough time to do so. You're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. You could have gone ages ago. In the same way, our discouragement and doubt of God shows up in how we live out our faith. And I wonder how many nervous Christians are out there, nervous to go out in the open road for God. Let me test you. Do you believe that God is good? That He has called you? That He has equipped you? That He has blessed you with every blessing in the heavenly realm? That you are His child? That God's favor rests upon you? That He has forgiven you all your sin? That He will give you the words to speak when necessary? Do you believe that God is on your side and that God likes you? Those are questions that cut to the heart of issues of doubt. But let us go to the Bible for some God-breathed and life-giving and doubt-destroying guidance. We all know of the Apostle Thomas. He doubted that Jesus had arisen from the dead, and till today we refer to a doubter as a doubting Thomas. But there was another man who doubted Jesus, and it's almost difficult to believe that he did. And that man's name was John the Baptist. He is the one whose birth was foretold by the angel Gabriel. That's in Luke chapter 1 verse 18. He was the man who baptized Jesus Christ. He is the man who heard a voice from heaven say of Jesus, "This is my beloved Son with whom I am well pleased." This is the very same man whom Jesus Himself said is among those who are born of woman great. There's no one greater than John the Baptist. Jesus said that. But in Matthew chapter 11, you find this great man, John the Baptist, in prison. And he has been arrested by Herod the Tetrarch because Herod had him arrested and bound because he had said it's not right for Herod to have taken his brother's wife. It's Herod's brother's wife. So things are not well for John. He is bound and in prison, and this is where the discouragement and doubt starts for him. As D.A. Carson points out, Jesus is not meeting John the Baptist's expectations. And what do we mean by that? You see, John the Baptist himself had told the crowds in John chapter 3 verse 12 that Jesus' winnowing fork is in his hand and he will clear his threshing floor, gathering his wheat into the barn and burning up the chaff with unquenchable fire. In other words, Jesus will bring judgment. But you see, here's the problem for John in prison. There is no winnowing fork and unquenchable fire. Instead, John is stuck in prison, bound, This by a man who sleeps with his brother's wife. The judgment that John expected Jesus to mete out is simply not there. And so John is discouraged. His expectations for Jesus have not been met. And then he starts to doubt God himself. Here's the irony. He's sitting in prison when he hears about the miracle or miracles that Jesus is doing outside the prison while he's suffering in prison. Do you see the irony? Jesus is performing miracles and deeds for others, but not for John the Baptist. John's still in prison. So we read in verses 2 to 3 of Matthew 11, "Now when John heard in prison about the deeds of Christ, he sent word by his disciples and said to Jesus, 'Are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another?'" Can you see where John's discouragement has taken him? There may even be some offense in his question to Jesus. He is now asking Jesus, "Are you really the Messiah? Or must we look for someone else?" John's discouragements have destroyed his faith and left him simply with doubt in hand. And this is all because he had the wrong expectations of Jesus Christ, even though he was such a great man of faith. He thought that Jesus was going to bring the judgment now, in this world, while he lived. But Jesus answers John the Baptist by referencing him to two texts in Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 35, verses 5 to 6, and chapter 61, verses 1 to 2. Jesus says this, "Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk, and lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, and the deaf are raised up, and the poor have good news preached to them. And blessed is the one who is not offended by me." In others, what Jesus is saying, "For now I've come in peace to fulfill those sections that have been prophesied. Focus on that, John. My actions, my miracles prove that I am that Messiah. But the day of judgment will still come." It's not coming now, it will still come. "For now I enter Jerusalem on a donkey in peace. Later I will come on a horse in judgment." The fascinating thing is that Jesus does not save John. Maybe we should just stop there for a moment. Jesus does not save John. John is eventually beheaded and dies at the hands of evil men. And so in the same way, this must be noted, Jesus is not saved from death and the hands of evil men. What we must understand is that the purposes of God will play out as God has purposed, and at the times that God has purposed. We are to align with those purposes. The miracle in the first instance is not that God saves us from a cross or a prison or from beheading or from death or illness or whatever it is, even though he can and he does. But the real miracle is that our names are written in the book of life, that we have already moved, for those of us who believe, from death to life. That miracle is already ours, and that miracle outshines any other miracle that may affect our lives here on earth. We must align with the purposes of God. I close. Discouragement and doubt are like tranquilizers. Check your heart, because they numb our faith and they numb out our actions. We may even feel, after discouragement and doubt, offense. We may be offended by God. Here's the thing, even a great man of faith like John the Baptist experienced discouragement and doubt. And that should encourage us. What is required is for us to make sure that our expectations of God are aligned to God's purposes and will for our lives. And to do that, we need to spend time in the scriptures. We need to stay in community. We need to discern collectively. We need to divide the scriptures correctly. May God bless you today with this blessing, that you are in a place of certainty about the goodness of God and His promises for your life. And may you act that out. May you go onto the open road for Christ, not as a nervous driver, but as a confident driver with no discouragement and doubt, for His glory.